and welcome to the Borealis Show on this icy cold Friday. It's a German who isn't adjusted to the cold yet, and a Canadian who's pretty good with minus temperatures.
No win.
I hope you all had a good week and have an exciting weekend ahead of you. And today we will be talking about training, exercising, and I'll start with self-care, because the topic or the word self-care is out there quite a lot at the moment. But this is Jason Tilsley. I think most of you know him already. He's been on the show a couple times, and I want to give him the opportunity today to share his knowledge and his perspective on training, because I find it very timely what he has to say, and very it will help a lot of people. I know that for sure. Self-care. What I find really interesting about how people go about self-care is that most of us pick exercising as an activity to take care of themselves, and some people have a hard time to stay motivated and then drop the activity right away because maybe they had a bad experience with a trainer, or they feel judged by others who are more advanced. And then there's other individuals who take training so seriously that they sometimes even get to the point to injure themselves without even noticing right away, but in doing the training with very heavy weights repetitively wrong, you harm your body, and this is probably not the best way to take care of yourself when you are trying to relax from work or do something good for you. So I know Jason had a time in his life where he was in this wheel. He wanted to be successful. He used sport as an outlet, which can be very positive. But he got to a point where he realized that he has to change his training. Otherwise, he will end up having to get new knees and joints from the doctors at some point. And I would like to know what brought you, what made you forget about the good feeling in your body, and you kind of switched into a mode where you just wanted to lift these heavy weights. Where did you lose the self-care aspect, and then what point made you realize, okay, I have to change something?
I think the self-care part, that could have actually been at an early age when I was going to the gym, going to the college with my dad. At first I always looked at it as a way to supplement the conditioning I was getting through hockey, because we were skating all the time, doing dry land after, so going for long distance runs. So there was always this part of me that wanted to be stronger and be one of the stronger guys out on the ice, not just have the cardio, but also for the physical side of hockey. So having to hit guys and just feeling strong in that world. So it was, I think, from there, I started to lift. It was, I got really, loved the feeling of just kind of pushing my body and that kind of stuff. And I don't think I ever thought it was self-care, though, because, as I was getting older, going through hockey, I was just, pushing harder and harder and harder. So I think I was always just kind of slowly going away from self-care and what the weight lifting and the intensity and all that stuff was doing. It was more of a distraction away from, maybe things that were happening in my life, the way I was feeling about myself on the inside. It wasn't, like I say, it just kind of over years and years, it just then finally all of a sudden started to catch up to me. So looking back, I would say self-care, I don't think it was ever a priority. It was more my own competitiveness and, wanting to, be one of the stronger guys out on the ice. Like, not just be fast, but powerful and that kind of stuff. And then when hockey ended, I started to fall into other things. And there was usually always something, that happened, like, just a very tough situation where I end up, like, changing something that I'm doing. So that was where then after hockey, I remember, I did some traveling and then came back and, was just still working out and just doing, stuff at the college and, going on the elliptical and pedaling my ass off on that thing and on all the treadmills and doing that stuff in high intensity. And, some people looked at me like, what the hell? I was like one of those guys that you'd see posts on like social media where you see a guy just bust an ass on an elliptical and you're like, what the hell is that wrong with that guy? So yeah, I've definitely just, when I look back, it's fun that I've experienced those things and I can look back at them and kind of laugh a bit and just know it was, just something that I was going through. And at the time, I was just so caught up in the way we look physically as well, which I think, again, that kind of took me away from the whole purpose of what training should be and self-care. So, it was basically like drinking, like, diet pop and chicken breasts and broccoli, right, to where, like, my body fat percentage, I think, was at 5%, which was not good, very unhealthy. So, again, it's kind of looking back, lesson learned, and just chalk it up as that and on to the next thing. So,
and I mean, not forgetting about that time in your life will help you relate to people who are still stuck in that mode and also can see that, this is not going to be sustainable, but I want to stay active, but how can I do it without wrecking my body, right? Very interesting. And I find you have a very how can I say, it's not an alternative approach, but you have a very good knowledge of the motorics and how joints work and muscle, where they are attached and how they hold the joints and move the body, and even with the breathing now with yoga that you started. How do you want to get this out to people who are still stuck in this is how we're supposed to train and not this?
That's a tough one, because it's just, I think it's become such a hard concept for some people to want to grasp or want to kind of like move into, because the way my training is now is that it kind of just strips away everything. So it's, there's like the weights aren't really there anymore, and so now it's more very basic fundamental movements. And when you even talk about breathing, like these things that no one ever taught us how to breathe or do meditation or anything like that. Walking, right, we learned to walk on our own and we walk the same way, and just our parents never taught us to walk or run. It's just all developed through our own ways. So throughout our lifetime, all of a sudden you start to get little tweaks and things here and there, because maybe now you're working out and you're doing it in a specific way, going to a conventional gym or whatever, and you're starting to see like aches and pains build up, and it's just because the body is getting tired of moving the same way. We start doing less and less patterns. We stop exploring with our body, I find. We put more and more limitations. We put ourselves into a box, and then when issues come around, then it's okay. Well, I'll just get surgery, or I'll kind of bounce back. And it's not to say that I've gone through my share of injuries and things like that, but I've been able to kind of rehab from them and kind of learn from them, similar to when I was looking back, training like a goof at the college when I was young. Again, it's all just taking those things and then learning from them, and then hopefully where I am now, I would love to share that with people, to try and get them feeling better about their body and how they move. Because I found once you start to be able to put your body in ranges of motion it was never intended to be in or has ever experienced in a long time, you actually start to feel good about it. It kind of is a little bit of a confidence booster. It's like when somebody goes and they start deadlifting, they start adding weight on the bar, right? They get that a little bit of dopamine, feel good about it. And that's kind of the harder thing I find with the training that I do. It is a different kind of good feeling because it takes time. It's not like deadlifting where you can easily add weight and you can just see it all happening, right? You get that visual and you get that stimulation there. Whereas with what I do with the flexibility, the motor control, all that kind of stuff, it takes a little bit of time, but when you start to feel safer and you can create power and tension in those deep ranges of motion, I find it can only help people in anything else they choose to do outside of their gym and physical activity and all that. So.
Absolutely. And I mean, I was and I am very curious about your training, and you taught me some stuff already, and it's extremely humbling because I'm not using any weights. I'm just using my body weight and go into weird positions or do crawling. But at the same time, it reminds me of my childhood, and it was a very playful experience, and also it felt as if you were befriending me again with an old friend that I abandoned a long time ago, because I had a very abusive relationship with my body, and now I'm like on a good path. But what you showed me was I was able to connect to my body again, and that was so beautiful and intense, and I want to do more about it, like with your techniques, and I can feel like how I'm getting stronger already, and the range of motion, because so many people, I mean, we are pretty active during the day, but a lot of people are just sitting at their desk all day long, and then if you do these like very one-sided machine stuff, it's not giving your body what it needs, and that's why so many people feel so much guilt and shame after a while because they don't feel like going to the gym anymore, and then they drop their training and feel even worse than before they started. Can we talk about this guilt and shame also when it comes to food and nutrition? Because I know you have some experience there, and at times it gets your heart rate up when you hear some comments about food. And let's talk about the guilt and shame part with training first. So what I know from girls is when they have like a very tight training schedule, like let's say 5 days a week, and then 1 week they only trained like for 4 days, and they feel so awful, and they feel like they have done like how can we help these people? How do you
I think it's the big thing is learning about balance, I guess, and kind of what is the main goal that you're trying to achieve? Like, are you trying to be competitive in something? Are you, or is this just, are you just kind of like a weekend warrior, and you're just doing this to be healthy, because that is what, the fitness world and lifting weights and all that is about. It's just about being healthy. But that's the one thing that I find is I think now we start to see where it's veering away from, being healthy, and people are starting to, get into guilt. So whether they miss a workout, because what happens if you get injured, or what happens if you get sick, right? You can get into a very bad headspace, and I know what that's like. I've been in it before. You feel like you're falling behind, and because you're not. I guess you're not looking at like the big picture, and you're just thinking of that I need to get this in, and I can especially see it. Let's say if people who are competitive, because you're always assuming what are the people that I'm going up against? How are they competing? How is this going on? And you see like posts and a lot of things on social media where it's like no rest days, things like that. I love rest days. I know for me it's not even from the physical side, it's the mental side for me, because with the crawling and with a lot of the different movements that I do and the focus that I put into it, I need my brain needs to like have rest. It needs to reprogram all those new patterns and motor control. And so that's, to me, where I need it more than anything. And so...
Oh, and we all do, I believe. I mean, my most favorite quote is "a relaxed muscle hits hardest" from Bruce Lee. And I see so many people now that they are exhausted, they don't sleep well, and work all the time, or are busy all the time, and get sleeping pills, or think, I have to get more sleep in. But I believe that you need to rest more often. Like small little chunks during the day, and a big rest day during the week, not only on the weekend where you distract yourself with I don't know what. Your body has to process everything that is happening to him or her, and then just settle in.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we take for granted is just life stressors that happen, ones that are even outside of our control, but then ones that are inside of our control, and not making maybe changes to, rectify some of those stressors, especially the ones that are within our control. Things that are outside of our control, like I say, like getting sick, or, your car breaking down when you were going to work out, or, like you get a call from the day home and, your child's puking and you got to go pick them up, and, totally ruined your workout. Those, again, are a lot of things that are outside of your control. But then I think the problem is that, so in the day, if you have like a stressful day at work, and let's say you go work out at your lunch hour, and all morning you just were dealing with some kind of, jerk at work or some deadline, and you were stressed, and then that's where fitness has always used the, it's a good stress reliever. It's like the best way to relieve stress. But I sometimes find, you see people go to the gym and then they just want to hit it hard because they were stressed and they're angry and they're frustrated. And I'm like, I'm going to like totally, burn off this stress and forget about it. Where I look at that, it's like throwing gas on a fire.
Absolutely.
Like, so where eventually your body's going to fight back because it's constantly in that fight or flight mode. And just because, you hit it hard, you could shut your brain off for that hour, doesn't mean that you forgot about what's going on or what else is what's coming up when you go back to work or whatever, right? So I think that's one of the things that, I've seen, where people just kind of, it's like, it's just that part of their routine. It's that day-to-day thing, and that's where, they start to feel like it's a chore. They start to resent the gym, over time too, right? Because they are so stressed, or maybe they're so tired and they know they need a rest day, but they're not going to take it because it's built into their schedule. It's built into that routine. And they know they'll feel that shame or that guilt, and they stop listening to their body. And that's how I've kind of changed my training, is I want to start being more intuitive into what's going on in my body and how life stressors affect, me on a physical level and not just a mental level.
Oh, and your body will reward you big times. And another thing that I love what you said the other day is the warm-up and the cool-down. how you, in your warm-up, figure out what do I need today? How do I feel? What does my body want? And the cool down is like, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I made it here, like in yoga, to my mat or to the gym, or I went for that walk, and I just let this practice sink in, and I'm just grateful that I'm healthy and that I can do this.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful to me, because for me, warm-up was always like, I hated it the most. And cool down, like that stupid stretching at the end, oh my God, go away with this, And so you helped me to listen more to my body and to know, okay, I can exercise today, but I feel different than yesterday, so I will attune to this or dial back, and then everyone is happy. And that's very critical, because people think, oh no, they always have to hit it hard. I have that one friend, she wakes up every morning at 4 o'clock, trains 1 hour, and then she goes to work. And I asked her the other day, do you feel like training every morning at 4 o'clock? Like, do you really get up and want to do this? And she said, no, most of the time I hate it.
And most people, don't, but I give those people all the props in the world, because if that is like the only time that they can, get in their physical activity, I do understand that. But yeah, getting up that early and depending upon what you're doing, it's a hard thing. Whereas, if you have to get up that early, your body is trying to wake up, it's trying to get, ready for the day. Doing the intense stuff, it may not be the right thing to do, but I did it when I trained. It was like 10 years ago, when I was training for a fight in the cage. I was training in CrossFit in the morning, and then at night going and grappling and sparring with guys at the fight club. And looking back, I was younger, obviously. I was I was going through a rough phase. A close friend of mine had committed suicide, and so I needed something to really take my focus elsewhere and deal with what was, how that hit me. And so I, said I wanted to fight in the cage, because I always thought of doing that. It kind of, I guess, looked fun, as crazy as that sounds. But I started doing that, and then a friend of mine came to me who was doing CrossFit and said, you should come try this, and went and did it, and I just got hooked on it. It was awesome, and then I just knew that was like what I needed to supplement, my fight training with. And but I was getting up early and doing it. But looking back now, like being 35, I'd rather wake up and just do like a nice stretch. Maybe get some meditation in. I know I haven't done that for a bit. I've kind of fallen off of that, but that's okay. We do, and then you kind of know maybe you need to get back into it. Like I think the winter now, I really appreciate the lack of sunlight and how that affects us. But with getting up and everything. But like I say, I got all the kind of props for people that get up early and do that, because that is the only time. Because let's say they got families or they got other obligations, they know where they're not going to get it in after work. So if that's the time, then it's just maybe don't go 5 days a week, right? Maybe give yourself a rest day, right? Because to do that 5 days a week, I would be needing to like sleep all weekend just to recover from the lack of sleep, right?
Absolutely. And your body also reaches a plateau. Do you say that in English?
Yeah, you hit a plateau.
You don't get any better from like not resting.
No, and then that's again where you get into that resentment or that feeling of like you're not making progress, and now what am I doing this for? What's the purpose? What's the goal? What's the result? And you get into a negative space for sure. And
get frustrated. So now to the nutrition. Part. Your most favorite.
Yeah, I know. Don't ask me about nutrition advice, anybody.
No, but I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, I know you do.
I really want to. Because, again, your approach to food is I love it. It's from my perspective, very healthy. But most people are like, well, that is not like written down in the Canada Food Guide, or that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I think you want to force people to try things out and to let them know that everybody is different.
Yeah.
So not one diet is going to help you. It's try out what feels good, what makes you feel energized, and then stick to this. How can we start it? When people, like when you load up
Carb
cake,
load or cake,
then and people say, well, what do they say?
well, they just
how can you eat
they
this?
just think, how can you eat that, right?
Yeah,
and,
don't
and
you
I
feel
just,
guilt and shame after?
Yeah, I know. No, I don't, because I feel like, you know, I don't want to be a weirdo, and again, I've been that person, right? Like when I was talking about back in like when I was going to college, like you're talking late teens and things like that, and
You
just,
were rigid?
yeah, right, like to a detriment, right? Where I was drinking, you know, diet pop. I was just like, it was no sugar, just protein, no fat. Like my body was just being depleted of like, you know, the nutrients that it really needed, and the fats too, right? It's like my brain was probably like, it's amazing that it's still strong, right? Still going, right?
It's made of
fat.
maybe.
And now I'm giving it all the fat it needs and all the like movement it needs, and I'm trying to nurture it back to some kind of health, but yeah, so when people, like if I go, you know, Thursdays, it's a routine for me. I'm gonna go have a spud, and I mean, I might even eat two, who knows, whatever. You know, and maybe daily I'm gonna have some kind of something that someone thinks is not a healthy choice or a wise choice.
Or you used to think.
Or even that I used to years ago. Yeah.
How did you change that?
I changed it because I knew it was kind of, you know, you were building shame and resentment against food. And, you know, here again, we live, you know, in a world where food is so easily accessible. And then on the other side of the world, right, people are dying of starvation. They don't have food. They don't have water. So why am I, like, looking at all food as bad? Like, why am I, you know, placing that label on it and then attaching that emotion?
Yes.
So it's that, when I probably eat that, it's like taking drugs and being a drug addict and feeling shame, right?
Yes.
You're just always, you know, and then you just keep eating that way, and you get into a bad headspace, a bad rut, and it's hard to change that, right? So that's where people either have to do a complete 180. It's hard to just transition out. You just have to know. It's like quitting smoking. Like when you're with a friend, you know, you either just say, I'm done with this, and that's that. And then you at least try, right? There's no harm in trying. But I just kind of laugh sometimes when people, you know, will just call me out, or if I'm drinking beers or doing whatever, and I just think like, no, like, I mean, I move so much, I guess, too, that it really doesn't, it shouldn't matter anyways. Not that I'm counting calories, because that's what that comment can sound like. It's saying, because that's, I think a lot of people, they'll do the old, I've burned this many calories today, so I've earned this treat. It's like, how about I just earn it anytime I want, right? Yeah. But it's just like, I guess, in moderation, or be a little responsible about it. Because I've had moments where I've been irresponsible with chocolate, or like something, and I've learned like a hard
bitter
lesson. Like gave myself like a short stint of like diabetes or something, right? And my body was just in shock. So it's like I say, I use the lottery slogan to pretty much a lot of my daily life. That's another life lesson. It's know your limit, play within it. And so that goes with training, eating, and a lot of things.
And everything else, Yeah, I remember our yoga teacher was asked if yoga helps with weight loss because of the metabolism and the breathing, and she said, but maybe not so much. More, you have that space where you can be still and be with yourself and feel emotionally better with yourself. And in feeling better emotionally, you will crave less of the forbidden foods if you categorized it.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Yeah.
And I can totally understand what you meant by that because, we are naughty little kids. Yeah, if you tell us, oh, this is forbidden, and this is, and the body will store even more when it knows, oh, this is only gonna come once a month, so I better store everything because otherwise I'm in starvation mode, right? Yeah.
Or like say just how we just indulge like after, if we did like a diet, right? Or we did like a fast or competed in something, right? Where we were so strict. And then it's like, I can't wait to just totally like, throw this shit back into my system or something, right?
Yeah.
Because, whereas I would rather just have a little bit of that on the daily, maybe not daily, maybe every other day, who knows, whatever. Like I say, it's like when I go on holiday, I'm going on holiday and I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to enjoy food, I'm going to enjoy drink, and just have, why kind of shut that stuff off, because I'm concerned, I guess, mainly on what it's going to do to me from a physical appearance. I think that's where, again, you get into a really bad headspace because it's tying that emotion of how you look physically, and that's again something where I've changed a lot too in terms of my fitness journey and all that, is where you're training to look fit, right, and people want to perceive you as that, but a lot of the time, and people would look at me and think, man, you look fit, but I would, like, mentally and what was going on inside, I was probably the most unhealthy person you could ever talk to, right? And I know there's other people that live that same way too, but now I look at like movement to me and just moving my body and doing yoga and the stretching and the self-care that we were just kind of talking about in the beginning. That's the main goal for me now. The looks and that stuff is like secondary, if not like third now, because how I look at movement and what I do, that's, as long as my body feels good doing that, I feel like my body's going to have to look a certain way to perform what I want to do. So when I want to do like handstands, or I want to do crawling, or I want to do these kind of awkward, weird looking exercises to what some people would think, I just think of the body, and I think, if I'm going to be crawling, my body needs to look a certain way to perform those tasks, or like the demand that I'm putting it under. So when I'm like on my hands inverted, I need to create a certain a certain level of tension, but I also need to create relaxation too in my body. That's the one thing too that I've learned, is now we're all so worried, like we all feel like tighter muscles and everything's got to be tight, but that's where you get muscle tears, injuries, all that kind of stuff. Our muscles should be like elastic bands, right, where they can stretch, and they're like plates that glide across one another, and they should move freely, not the other way around. But that's something, again, that I try and make people think about, because the tighter you get in your body over time, the less your joints can move and open up, and then you're going to get into some problems.
Yeah, and I find with your training, I mean, you not only have to forget how do I look right now, because it's, crawling on the floor or doing simple stuff that is super hard because you haven't done it in a while. But after the training, I've found, like after doing it a couple times, you also realize, like your mind is opening up, because you can see, I'm getting better. I'm using my body in a more efficient way. And
a more natural way, and
more
free.
natural. And it opens your mind to novelty. And I mean, you started singing, you play guitar, you do yoga, you will pick up some other new stuff soon, probably.
I don't know, my brain's just getting overloaded. But it's good.
But it's it's all like a break free from that little box you were living in for so long, and it's so beautiful to witness. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun, and like say even doing jujitsu, that's been
I forgot about that.
yeah, that's been that's been good, and it's hard, and that one's super humbling for me. You know, I grapple with guys that are just some savages, and it's awesome though, because they want to help you, which is great.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and it's no different than, you know, with my training. I'd love to, you know, eventually share that with people, you know, and help them overcome obstacles. So when you were just kind of talking about the training and the freeing and kind of how it makes you feel on a mental level, that's kind of what got me hooked on it in the first place, for sure, was just because it helped me overcome boundaries that I put on myself, limitations into, you know, doing a pistol squat or, you know, doing some body weight movements, and that was because my ego was just coming through hard. You know, I remember it was just wear and tear and putting my body in a position it was never intended to be in the first place. And that was a quote that I loved. It basically said, yeah, you'll always regret being injured in a position that your body was never intended to be in the first place. And that comes from not, you know, stretching, working mobility, doing those, you know, self-care so that you can perform, like, you know, whatever else it is that you want to do. Like, I know people don't have to do things to the extent that I do, or put all that focus into it, but I find that it's what helps me do all these other things, like that you talk about, even whether it's like singing, playing guitar, but like jujitsu, you know, I still get sore the next day because, like I say, I'll grapple with some guys that are just, yeah, so strong, and it's, you know, it's hard work. Like, that's my cardio, but yeah, like I'll feel it the next day, but I don't feel it in a negative way, and then I just, you know, I'll say, okay, maybe I dial it back in yoga this day, and, you know, listen to my body, and then, you know, just focus on, you know, stretching and getting that back, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, what I also wanted to say today on the show is that I find it so amazing when we look back at the first show. You've been here throughout the shows. You shared stuff about yourself and your journey and your story, and I find it so beautiful that you went from taking care of yourself, picking yourself up and trying new things, to now wanting to share it with other people.
Yeah.
And that is like the most valuable thing you can do to your community and even to the world.
Yeah.
And I know you will be very successful because people are longing to be more connected to themselves and more connected to others around them. And it's I will support you to the best of my abilities. Trust me on that.
I love that.
We still have a couple minutes left. What I also wanted to address is depression. You received a little message from a friend today that depression can be like addressed, and you can alter your DNA through nutrition and exercise and
meditation,
stuff. And meditation. Because I have a big problem when people say, it just runs in the family, and that's just the how do you say?
Hereditary.
There's nothing I can do about it. I'll take my pills and then go with that. You are living proof, and I have another person who's very close to me, that you can get out of it, even if it seems hopeless at times, and you don't see the end at the tunnel. Was it exercising mainly that helped you to feel better, or did you change?
I think in the beginning, like early on, so when I kind of mentioned about a close friend of mine committing suicide, and then I was training for a fight and doing that, I know I was in not a very good headspace at that time, and I was using it as a distraction, looking back more than anything. So moving my body and exercising has always been something that's helped me overcome, I guess, bad thoughts, bad feelings, things like that. But now more than ever, it's, some of the things I'm doing, it's making me confront those things like head on instead of trying to go around them. And just, kind of like that comment I made earlier where you just go in, you've had a really stressful morning and you're going to go pound your body into the ground, and then you're going to go back and go about your day. And, there are some maybe big things happening in your life that you're not dealing with or you're not addressing. So you can only kind of do that for so long, I find, and then your body starts to like give you signs, and it starts to, whether it comes from injuries, like ailments, like you're getting sick all the time, you're feeling tired, sluggish, all these things. So, it's like I say before, for me it was a way to distract myself, whereas now, and that's the hard part I find with this time, is that because I could, at times I feel like, maybe I am distracting myself, but I know now in a way I feel like I'm moving less intensely. It's more self-care. It's more bringing up feelings and emotions and working through them, even talking about them with you after, things like that. So, it's been good, and it's nice to know that, you can change or you can do something different, and you can see, sometimes I have a hard time seeing the positivity, because I was living in a negative space for so long, and kind of, I don't want to say abusing my body, but just, distracting it and doing all that. And like I said, I would get injured or feel something tweak, and that wasn't good, and then that put me even in a worse headspace.
Yeah.
So, because you're already, you're still slugging this training thing out or whatever it is you're doing, and then when all of a sudden you feel like you don't have that outlet anymore, like that's a dangerous place to be in for sure. I know when I changed from CrossFit, and I still think CrossFit is great. I think any training method that's out there that people do and you enjoy it and you have fun with it, and you're listening to your body, it's all the power to you. Do that stuff, because there's so many places you can do that. The fitness world is a big world, and at the end of the day, there's no bad methods, I find. It's just kind of listen to what's going on though too, in day-to-day life and in your body, and just kind of pay attention. Because for me, what made me have to make a change from CrossFit, and again, when I got into it, I knew right away it was just so important to me because of what I was going through emotionally and all this. It was kind of fueling my ego, obviously, and making me feel good. I started having little tweaks in my back, and it was the same set, same rep, like all 3 times, and I remember going to a chiropractor, and she was telling me, you should probably, dial back what you're doing, right? And of course, like you say, we have like that child mentality where it's, tell me this, I can't do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen, right? And, because this is like my life or whatever.
Crutch.
Yeah, this is what I need.
Helping me.
So after the second time, I started reading books, and because I'm the kind of guy where when things go bad, I do want to try and figure it out. I want to try and fix the problem. I don't just want to say walk away or whichever. And I started reading some books, like Stu McGill, like these back specialists, and started thinking, okay, that's an issue that I have, and like gluteal amnesia, so it's like my glutes aren't firing the way they should when I'm squatting heavy or whatever. So I was doing all these simple little drills, and then I dial the weight back up and get to where I was before the injury. And then the third time it happened, I went and just got adjusted by my chiropractor, and I just remember though, after that session, my back felt actually like a little bit worse than when I like went in that day to see her, and not that it was her fault or anything. It was then I was like, okay, because like the 2 times before didn't hurt after. Like when she adjusted me, it actually felt alleviate some of the pain, right? But then that 3rd time, then I was like, yeah, something's actually not right, and I need to change it, and that's where I got into, just kind of a lot of this body weight stuff, and that was when it was an opener for me, because a lot of movements, well, where I felt like I was so strong, I guess, right, with the weights and the external stuff, these basic movements were, so challenging, so hard, and I was frustrated. There were, but I'm glad I just kept working through it, and I still get frustrated sometimes, but I find not as much as I used to, and because I know it's like never ending. We put, you see what the human body is capable of doing, and I just want to push those limits and see what my body can do while I got it,
and rest in between.
Yeah, and rest in between. Oh yeah, take that rest. Hell yeah.
Take that rest. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all this, and maybe if people got interested in your training now, would you like to share where they can contact you or find videos or pictures?
Yeah, so just recently I'm starting to, just share some of my thoughts and, some movements on social media through Instagram. So it's Jay Tilsley, and then I'm on Facebook, Jason Tilsley, and I'm just starting to now want to use that as, I guess, as a bit of a platform, and put myself out there, and open to, anyone that wants to, ask me questions, talk to me about any injury that they've had or something, and if I can help them in any way, I would love to. Because I know what it feels like, kind of, when you're feeling good about something, and then all of a sudden it fights back at you, and your injuries come up, and now you're limited, and I think everything can be, you may have to just kind of dial things way back, but that's okay. It's okay. Like, it's better that than, I think, the alternative where next thing you're going to have some even bigger injuries, and then you got this one life, one body, and eventually you need to treat it well and take care of it. So because then you kind of lose out on experiences. So whatever sport, whatever activities you love to do.
Yeah. Oh, and if as a trainer, a male trainer, you give a guy the opportunity, or you tell him, hey, you should rest now. You should just take it easy. That's so powerful. I mean, we watched that end of the movie yesterday. What was it called?
Black Hawk Down?
Black Hawk Down. And I realized in these movies, it's about brotherhood and guys taking care of each other. They touch each other's face. They hug each other. They are so supportive, and I want to see that more out there. I want to see it. I want to see how guys support guys, because that's so powerful, and that's what we need more. So if you were watching this show tonight and you feel like, I have a story to share, I have something to tell, or it would make me feel so much better if I could get this out there. I mean, you experienced it too, that talking about it helped you to let go of stuff. Then, please contact me over Facebook, or over Jesse Parma here, or over Jason.
Me,
and you can
get some
even
new people on.
you can come to the show with Jason, or you come here by yourself, and I will not make you feel uncomfortable. And in sharing your story, you will actually help other people out there who are still not at the point where they feel they want to share, but you will make them feel less alone and hopeless. And I'd really love to see some new faces here on my show soon. And I'm very grateful that you took the time today to share what you want to do in the future. And I'm so excited to see, the first people approaching you and feeling as good about your training as I am feeling.
I'm glad you want to practice with me, and
Oh,
it's fun,
absolutely,
and
yeah.
we have a good time with it, so it's
Right.
good, and
Yeah.
I know you've been a good push for me and supporter, and yeah, so
Yeah.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys out there, stay warm. Have a great weekend, and I'll be back on next Friday.